Hello, podcast world, fellow horticulturists, lovers of plants, gardeners, family, and friends. Welcome to Shrubby Buddies, the podcast, friends with Woodies for garden goodies. I'm host Matt Guthrie.
And I'm host Tim Fleischer. Coming at you from Central Ohio, Zone 6B. We're just a couple of public horticulturists and certified arborists with experience in education, landscape design, gardening, retail, and wholesale.
So grab a drink, polish your pruners, dust off that kneeling pad, and let's get down to business. Hey, Shrubby Buddies, and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I am Matthew C. Guthrie I, joined with old Timmy Turbo Toes Fleischer. Timmy,
What up?
How are you, buddy?
What's up, Matt?
Oh, another day, another dollar,
Got that right.
So, before we get too deep into this episode, we are recording on Veterans Day, so I wanted to give a special shout out to all of the men and women that have served in the armed forces of the United States of America, and thanks for the sacrifice that you've made for this country and for all of us and your families and all of that good stuff.
Special shout out to Mikey Guthrie, Matt's daddy.
My father is one of them for sure. So, again, thanks for all of the veterans out there on this special day, a day to honor you. So,
And there's a lot of special things about your dad being a veteran, but if your dad wasn't a veteran, we would not have the Mercury Room.
Correct.
Because I'm going to butcher this story, but when he was in the military, in the middle of the night, he stole a weather station off of a destroyer ship and then put it in his pocket and went home and hung it on the wall.
Yeah,
And
you butchered the shit out of that for
Okay.
sure.
he did so. All right, why don't you tell me the story?
Yeah, so Mercury Room, for any of the new listeners out there, is where we record at my house. And it got the name Mercury Room because I had this old naval weather station hanging on the wall that my father had gotten out of a building that was being renovated on a base some years ago. I was a young kid. If I was guessing, it was when we were stationed in Newport News, Virginia.
So he didn't steal it.
No, and
Sorry,
it was
Mike.
gonna be thrown away, and my dad took this old weather station that was on a naval ship, and the bottom of this thing was full of a lot of mercury, and it got bumped off the wall. Nieces and nephews were over playing hide and go seek. It got hit, knocked off the wall, fell, landed in this room. Glass shattered. The bowl that holds all the mercury split in two, and we ended up with a massive mercury spill in the office at my house, which is now called the Mercury Room for that reason. It sat closed and sealed off for quite some time after we got the spill cleaned up, because I wasn't sure how long that stuff stayed in the air or whatever, anyways, yeah, so that's how the Mercury Room came about. But you're correct. If he wasn't in the military, we wouldn't have the Mercury Room. Probably wouldn't have a lot of the stuff that I've been fortunate enough to have in life. So
He's a good man.
yeah.
But
you know what he was going to be if he didn't go into the military, right?
a dog trainer?
No. He actually has his degree in agricultural science from Texas A&M, and he studied entomology, and he wanted to work on the cotton plantations of the South.
Wow.
So
I did not know that.
Yeah.
About
that was his plan. That was his plan, and then the Army came along, and the rest is history.
Swept him off his feet.
Yep. Swept him off his feet.
Yeah, whenever we record in the Mercury Room, I always can, on my drive home, I always can taste mercury in my mouth.
Yeah, as you should. I left just a little bit underneath the new flooring for that reason.
Just so we could kind of
get a little mercury taste.
keep it.
My whole idea with mercury is, it's poisonous, but if you expose yourself to just like a microdose of it every now and again,
Yeah.
it builds up your tolerance to mercury poisoning. Similar to E. coli with chicken. Every now and again, you just got to lick a little bit of raw chicken,
Yeah.
and the more you lick that raw chicken over time, it builds your body's tolerance.
Yeah,
So,
I like to, like, every time I grill chicken,
mhm,
I like to lick the tongs right after I put the raw chicken on
mhm.
and just like lick that juice off the tongs. And it's just enough
Just
to keep me
keep
to
you
keep
alive.
yeah. So
Same thing with the mercury.
cool.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
And now I get it.
And people, please don't go out and lick raw chicken and sniff mercury fumes.
Well, or do so at your own risk.
Whatever. Yeah. So, anyways, what's new with you, Timmy?
Ah, chicken liquor. Let's see. It things changed here a lot since the last time we recorded a podcast. Didn't they?
Dude.
Like
Yeah.
we woke up 2 days ago and there was just like a good 2 inches of snow.
No, that was yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yesterday.
Shit. Yeah, there was just like snow covering all the grassy areas. My roof is still covered in snow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that happened. I mean, that just kind of came. It seems like it's going to be getting back up into the 60s at the end of the week.
Yeah, by
which
the
is good.
weekend. Yeah, back up into the 60s. So,
But yeah, so that was different. Like I knew we were supposed to get some flurries, but I didn't expect to wake up and have to like brush off my car.
yeah.
I did not expect that.
Yeah.
So,
Crazy, dude.
yep. Otherwise not too much going on.
What's new with me?
Yeah.
Nothing. There's nothing new with me. Snow, you already talked about. It's just living life, man, just living, LIVIN, living life. Nothing really new here. I helped you today with hauling some brush away from the house.
Yeah, you're at my house today, aren't you?
Yeah.
We're recording in my
We're
basement again.
recording in your basement.
Cool.
So yeah, that's about it, man. Just kind of trying to finish out the season on a strong note at Dublin. I've got a little bit of stuff left to get in the ground. I was waiting on some trees to get removed before I replanted, and I think that those got done late last week. So we've just been trying to wrap up some contractual work here at the city of Dublin, and looking at getting some replacement equipment ordered and some tools in line, and yeah, all of that good stuff.
And for our listeners who are wondering, it's totally cool to plant trees.
Yeah.
When it's super cold out, as long as you can dig a hole in the ground, you can plant the tree.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So
yeah, so we've still been planting. Everything else is in the ground for me, perennial wise and shrub wise and everything. So it's just a matter of getting these last 8 or 9 trees in the ground, and yeah, I'll be ready to rock and roll for next spring. I've got some projects already kind of churning and burning in my mind for next year. I'm going to have to really sit down and prioritize some of that stuff. Looks like I've got 2 pretty decent size volunteer projects this coming spring that I'm already kind of thinking about. Some redoing some landscape at our Justice Center where our police department is and stuff. So, but yeah, other than that,
that bed deserves some love for sure.
Yeah,
and I just want to say thank you for being here today. Matt, you're at my house because we are utilizing your help today.
Yeah.
With some brush clearing.
Yep.
Megan and I have been working, primarily Megan has been working on cutting back this huge hedge of forsythia that we have, and some willow and some lilac, and we've got all this brush that it's just like, it's too much to burn. It's green, so it wouldn't burn anyways. So you brought a trailer over today, and we took 2 really full trailer loads to dump.
Yeah.
At the Ohio mulch, and that was really helpful. Really helpful. I know that it's been really bothering Megan having all those piles of brush back there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that I could help. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's what friends are for, right, bub?
That's right.
To help out when needed. So,
high five.
a high five.
So yeah, next time you got a big project, just don't even ask. Just tell me.
Okay.
Come on over.
All right, we'll do.
So
I can do that.
cool.
So, I'm sitting down here in your basement, and your kids have decorated. This is kind of like a hybrid space. Let's like your space and then your kids' space. But it looks like they've done some decorating for Christmas already. As have a lot of people. My wife's put some Christmas stuff out.
Yeah, see,
Um,
Megan, so Amelia didn't have school yesterday, and so Megan took the day off, and they got all the we had gotten all the Christmas stuff out of the basement, and they started getting it decorated yesterday.
Yeah.
So the house is pretty much decorated, which is fine. It makes everyone's happy about it. So
yeah, I always try and fight Taylor on it because I am always like, I want Christmas stuff to go out like
close
right
to
after
Christmas.
Yeah, closer to Christmas, maybe right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now let's put the tree up and stuff. But I mean, that's just me. And I guess maybe that's how we grew up. The tree would go out after Thanksgiving. We would wait until Thanksgiving was over. We'd get through that holiday and then get the tree up. But Thanksgiving is just a 1-day holiday, and I guess you don't really talk about Thanksgiving season,
Right.
or Halloween season, but Christmas is a season, and I do fight Taylor on it, knowing that I will lose every time. But she's got some of our Christmas stuff up because it's, coming into Christmas season here. And like you said, it makes everybody happy. It makes her happy. She enjoys decorating it. Christmas is like her favorite holiday of the year. So, yeah.
The way I look at it, I guess, is that we just last weekend we fell back with the time. We changed time, and it's like dark. It's like dark by 5:30 now, and this just helps brighten things up, and everybody, it boosts everyone's mood and spirits. So I'm all for it, and in the recent years, I've been told to be pretty hands off with the decorating. It's just kind of like help get all the stuff out of the basement and up the steps, and then after that, the girls kind of take care of things. So it's really not that much work on my end.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. Yep. Taylor just pulls it all out herself, and I'm 100% hands off on it. And I mean, of course, if she wanted help, I would help her, but she doesn't ever ask for help or anything. She just kind of makes it her project. Addie is over and helped her some, but
Taylor, she's an independent woman.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we both are pretty independent people, but yeah, anyways, so I'm seeing all of these Christmas trees that you have down here, and it just kind of gets me in the mood for talking some conifers, right?
Yeah.
And evergreens, and with all of the leaves falling here in Ohio, it's really making the evergreens and the conifer trees shine right now. So
yeah, because just before this snow we had, I would say the fall color was pretty much peaking. And there's still some stuff out there glowing, but for the most part, the leaves have just gotten frozen and fallen off.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
You really notice the evergreens.
Those damn oaks are really holding on to them like they like to do,
Yeah.
So Megan said earlier we should just cut all the oak trees down, and
I don't know. I couldn't disagree with her more on that. I love the big oaks, but they do produce a lot of leaves that don't chop up nice and that fall really late in the season. But
I know.
So such is life,
It's life. They're an important tree.
Yeah, they are.
So,
but anyways, back to the evergreens. Yeah, I think it's good to again, we're wrapping up our season. We just have a couple of episodes left. But I think going into winter, talking about just a little grab bag of conifer / evergreen stuff would be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we get into some of the fun stuff, I do want to go over some definitions.
Yeah, please do.
If that's okay.
Yeah, I want you to.
Because I think there's often some confusion on the difference between on the term evergreen versus conifer versus broadleaf evergreen, right? So today we're going to talk about a few different categories, but I'll start with the term conifer.
Okay.
So just to keep it simple, conifer is a cone-bearing plant. So you can think of like a pine cone or a spruce cone or a hemlock cone. Those are all conifers. It's very common that a conifer that you think of like a spruce or a pine or a hemlock is evergreen. needles, green needles that last all winter long, so they're always green, right? But we do have some conifers that lose their leaves, which their needles, which are also leaves, such as like a bald cypress or a larch or a metasequoia, right?
Yeah, Don Redwood.
Dawn redwood. Those are all also conifers, but they're deciduous conifers, so they lose their leaves. So not all conifers are evergreen, but not all evergreens are conifers either, because another category that we're going to talk a little bit about today are broadleaf evergreens,
Yeah.
they're not conifers at all. They're plants that keep green leaves all winter long, all season, all year long, but they don't produce cones. They're just like a flowering plant, just like a lilac or a magnolia is. They, but they, some of them have a lot smaller flowers. Some of them have showy flowers, but they've got the evergreen foliage. And some examples of those would be like hollies are broadleaf evergreens, boxwoods, and I just mentioned one, like a southern magnolia,
Rhododendrons,
rhododendron.
azaleas, mountain laurels, so the laurels. Yeah, there's a lot that really fall into that category. I don't know. No, cryptomeria would be considered a
Conifer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think just the point is we're going to talk a little bit today about some conifers, maybe some broadleaf evergreens, maybe some deciduous conifers. We'll be bouncing back between, but it's good to know those definitions, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything
think
I
so.
forgot?
No, I think you hit it. There definitely is a difference between them all, and the one thing that we get often is people they mistake a bald cypress or a Don redwood or a larch. We get this with residents in the city that we work, Dublin, that will think, they see these needle bearing plants that are green all year long, and then they shed all of their needles in the fall, and we get the calls that they're dead.
Yeah.
And I think that there is some confusion sometimes with that. They are a needle bearing plant, like your conifers are, but like you said, they're deciduous, so they are supposed to drop those needles or those leaves every year and grow new ones the next. So
Yeah. And another thing that I hope that if you are really interested in conifers and evergreens, to really take the time to, and I think we'll do an episode about this in the future, but differentiating between, say, a pine and a spruce and a hemlock, because they're very different species. They may have needles that stay green all year round, but they're very different species. And all too often it's just like, what's wrong with my pine tree? Or, how tall is my pine tree going to get? And you're looking around and there's no pine anywhere because they're not talking about a pine. They're talking about a juniper or something. So,
yeah.
So hopefully in the future we can do an episode where we clarify some of that.
We could even do a couple of episodes, because Tim and I did a talk for a group at Franklin Park Conservatory. Was that last year? Maybe it would have been 2024 season. That was all about all about conifers and evergreens, and it was about identification and pest issues and disease issues. And I think it's a really important topic to cover all of that stuff, because evergreens and conifers are used so often in the landscape, whether that be for anchoring something on the corner of your house, or for use as like a backdrop or in a perennial border, or foundation plantings, or screening from your neighbors.
Screening is what we see a lot of in Dublin.
See a lot of that in
Dublin. You don't want to see the bike path or the park or your neighbor's house. So.
So a lot of screening and stuff. And then in rural areas, you may have people that are planting them. I've done a handful of side jobs where it's planting these large rows of them, staggered rows of different mixed conifers for a windbreak. So especially here in kind of, flat open Ohio. But So I think that evergreens and talking about them and the identification of them and recognizing some of these pest and disease issues would be good for people, um, you know, to learn about. The issue with our talk is, one, we couldn't cover it all in one episode, so it'd have to be a two-parter, and two, like we said, it's a pretty heavy, like, there's a lot of like spitting facts, and it's not like always the most fun thing to listen to. But
Yeah, and it's hard to explain the difference in the needles of a pine versus a spruce versus a fir just verbally.
yeah,
It's just one of those things sometimes being out and actually, getting into some
Yeah.
trees is where you need to be with that.
yeah,
So,
for sure.
but you did mention evergreens being important, and the fact that we've talked about some disease issues in this talk, and I want to start with blue spruce
Yeah,
because blue spruce is one of those trees that classically has been just one of the more commonly trees planted
yep,
all around, right? You see them everywhere as screening, as single trees in a yard because they're full, they're dense, and they have this bluish green cast to them
Yep.
that people seem to like, right?
yeah, absolutely.
But there's been some problems with blue spruce, has there not been?
Yeah, there has been. Yeah, so needlecast, Rhizophera needlecast,
Yeah.
is really wiping out the Colorado blue spruce population. I would imagine across all of the Midwest. I'm even seeing it now, like a little bit up in the northern parts of Michigan. I'm even seeing it hit trees, in my travels up there.
And you're seeing it more in like the city and the suburbs where there's dense plantings of them because the disease wants to go from one tree to another, and it's very easy. One single tree out in the country, you see, wow, that tree still looks pretty good just because just the disease hasn't gotten to it, right?
Yeah.
But all kinds of disease issues with conifers, but this is probably the biggest one because it just decimates these blue spruce from the bottom up.
Mm-hmm.
They just start losing their needles, and typically with conifers, once they start to lose branches and needles, they don't grow them back.
No,
they don't. They're not just going to be like, oh, I need to grow a new branch there.
Yeah,
they're just, it's done. Those branches
done.
are dead.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and and like you had said, a lot of people have these trees, so we get asked very often, like, what's a good replacement for the Colorado blue spruce for this reason, or people are having to remove these mature ones off their property, unfortunately, and it's like, well, what can I plant in their place? And I think that there are, if color doesn't matter, there's a lot more options. If you want to stick with that kind of greenish blue hue, I would say the one that we probably recommend the most would be white fir. Is there a good replacement for those guys? And there's different junipers that would work that kind of give that blue hue, maybe not quite the size, but are still going to be very hardy, kind of blue colored evergreens that you could use like in a mixed screening. One that we recommend a lot is Western Arborvitae, specifically the cultivar green giant.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to have the blue hue, just a dark green hue, but very fast growing, very, very hardy tree. Once they get established, they just grow like a damn weed. But that's a great one that we recommend for people that are having to remove these things, especially if they're having to remove a 30 or 40 foot tall Colorado blue spruce from a screening. And it's like, geez, like I'm going to lose this big chunk of my screen. What can I plant back in there that's going to fill this area back in, and, in a hurry? And, if that's what you're looking for, then I would definitely go the route of Western Arborvitae. So
Yeah. And you did mention that those aren't really blue. And you did mention that like a white fir has that blue cast, just not quite as fast growing. But another one that you and I had been discussing recently is the Trumner spruce, which I had to look it up to be sure, but it's a hybrid between a blue spruce and a Serbian spruce. and it is showing resistance.
Yes.
And it is behaving a lot like a Colorado blue spruce, and then having some branches that are a little more pendulous, like the Serbian.
Yep.
And we learned about this one when touring Dawes many years ago, and we've seen it here and there in the trade. So it's not something that is probably going to be super readily available, but something to keep an eye on. Maybe put this one in your notes. So it's Troemner, Trumner hybrid spruce.
Yeah, if you can't find it in the garden center, maybe if you're working on something with a landscaper, they could find it for you. But yeah, I think that would be a very good option. I know Dave Danaher's got some here in Central Ohio growing field grown trees out on his property, and but yeah, there's a lot of options if you are okay with losing that kind of blue hued foliage. Like I said, there's a lot of different junipers and arborvitaes and even some other spruces, like even the Norway spruces. It gets used a lot, and it's not my favorite tree, but it shows good resistance to the needle cast.
I was just going to say, I think the needle cast has the propensity to affect all spruces, but there are spruces that don't seem to be bothered by it quite as much, like a Norway spruce, which is one of those spruces that just gets giant, like 100 feet tall. And then another one, the one I love, is the Oriental spruce, which, again, it's nothing like the blue spruce. It's a really nice, dark, clean green.
Yeah.
But it seems to really not be bothered. So, I love a good Oriental spruce.
Trust me, we love a good Oriental spruce. Speaking of like some of your favorite evergreens, so like, what are some of your other favorite evergreens besides Oriental spruce?
We talking evergreens or conifers?
Let's talk conifers. Yeah.
Okay. This time of year, it's so easy to fall back in madly love with like dawn redwoods and bald cypress because of the fall color, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like both of them just have such a nice, like, glowing rusty orange fall color, and it's just gorgeous. And I love. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, not only that, but even after they lose their needles for the season, like, they have a real pretty silhouette.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. So yeah, and I was just gonna say, even when those needles kind of fall off and leave that like little blanket of rusty orange needles under the tree, I don't know, something about that makes me happy.
Yeah, no, they're definitely on my list of favorites. I love the dragon eye pine. The Japanese red pine is one of my favorite. It's got that, like, the variegated needles on it, the striped needles, and just that kind of red rusty colored, real pretty bark. I don't know. Really, really cool tree.
I do love those needles. They're kind of like they're striped green and like a yellow and like a white. It's kind of it's a very unique tree, and you can even see it from a distance. Something just doesn't look normal about it.
Yeah, they kind of glow. Yeah, so that's definitely one of my favorites. I think I speak for both of us when I say some of our favorites to use in these screenings and stuff, like we were talking about. Because we're not planting. I mean, we try not to even plant the Norway spruces, but it's Thuya plicata, the Western arborvitaes, green giants. There's a lot of them. Junior giant now. There's the gold ones. Forever Goldie, I think, is one, so you could get like a gold colored foliage on one. What are some other?
Well, so if you're talking
Junipers.
about screening too, just a good practice is to mix your screenings up with at least like 3 different species.
Yeah.
First of all, just the idea of that monoculture to me is boring, just like one row of the same thing. But second of all, take the blue spruce. You lose dozens and dozens at one time. But if you have a mixed planting of evergreens along your property or something, you might lose 1 or 2 here, but then you're not losing everything.
Yeah.
So having a mixed border is actually a really smart way to go. So mixing spruces with firs, with junipers, with arborvitaes is a good thing to do.
Yeah. I've been using a lot of the one arborvitae that I like. It's a native one. Did I say arborvitae? I meant juniper. Juniper's virginiana, Berkey, and that's kind of got that like bluish hue to it.
Yeah.
And I just love kind of the randomness of the tree. It's not always the most uniform looking thing. It's kind of got these branches that kind of just shoot off of it, but it shows a lot of vigor, deer resistant, super hardy. I've got it planted in part shade and it's doing great. I've got it planted in the full sun and it just really likes the full sun.
And junipers in general are very drought tolerant.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a tough plant. And it's not overbearing. It's not one of these junipers that's going to get to the size of like a Norway spruce. So in dealing with residential areas, a lot of times, especially in these big neighborhoods, you plant that Norway spruce when it's only 4 foot tall and 3 feet wide. You think, oh, this will be nice. And 20 years down the road, it's 60 foot tall and 30 foot wide. And now a quarter of your backyard's gone, or in some cases, maybe half of it.
Yeah.
So some of these junipers and things and some of these arborvitaes really kind of check the mark for providing screen in some of these smaller yards. It's not going to eat up too much real estate. I just planted some DeGroot Spires arborvitae for my parents, a little bit tighter form of just the emerald green arborvitae.
They can take a little shade too.
Yeah, that's why I use them, is because I have them in a little bit of shade. And it's kind of in a narrow area, so I couldn't have something that got too terribly wide.
They don't take up a lot of real estate, side to side.
Yeah, they're slow growing, so I wanted something a little bit slower growing,
Now, the juniper I like for that really good, nice, straight, tight habit is the Taylor
Oh,
juniper.
yeah, Taylor's nice.
And I do like the Taylor juniper because it is the namesake of your wife, Taylor.
Yeah.
And she is a wonderful person.
Mm-hmm.
But I do also like the Taylor juniper a lot for its form and function.
Yeah, there's that one planting of them around that brick structure there in Dublin. It's like that where the dumpsters are.
Yeah.
Oh man, they are just so nice in there. Those, and they're planted with, I think it's hydrangea arborescens, maybe.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, probably like a lime.
And they really do stay like nice and tight. Even we've seen there's some bigger ones. Remember that conference at that Villanova?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The Botanical Symposium, wherever that is. There's some pretty big ones around that building, and they're whatever, like 20 feet tall, but they're probably no wider than like 4 feet wide.
Yeah,
so
like a slender silhouette sweet gum.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got any other nice evergreens that you're really loving on right now? Or conifers?
Well, I want to go back to, I'm not done talking about like metasequoias and
oh, okay, go back.
dawn redwoods and the bald cypress. Another reason why I love those so much, not just the fall color, but is their growth rate. Because typically with evergreens and conifers, the plants have slower growth rates. These don't. Bald cypress and metasequoias, again, I'm lumping them together. They're not the same plant, but they have a lot of the same attributes. They grow so fast, right? Like I've seen I keep saying metasequoia, which is the Latin name, but I've seen a dawn redwood put on like 3 feet of growth in one season, which is crazy.
I've seen them put on 3 feet of growth in 1 week.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, dude.
And just think about that year after year.
Dude, it's nuts.
So I appreciate that with those. And another thing I appreciate with both of those species is that they're super tough. Like evergreens and conifers can be a little bit picky about where you plant them. So very few conifers like wet soil.
Yeah.
They also don't want it to be like super dry. It's like that evenly moist, well drained, that thing that's like so hard to achieve.
Yeah.
But dawn redwoods and bald cypress can grow in standing water, but they can also grow in super dry areas.
Oh, yeah.
So they just run the gamut. So they're just like a really good, like utilitarian plant for a tough spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I love them. And I love when the bald cypress grow the knees, out of the water if they're planted in a wet area. But
yeah.
But you are right. Like they're one of those, they're like a problem solver tree. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't get anything to grow here, well, I'll plant one of these guys. You want something. What's cool about them too is there's enough cultivars out there that you can really hit you want something big and sprawling, plant the species. You want something tight and upright, plant the Lindsay skyward,
Well,
bald cypress, so you get that tall fastigia, you know.
I was going to say, I planted the Lindsay skyward. I planted a grouping of 3 of them at Riverside Crossing. And my thought was the service berries had died because the soil was too wet, because they're planted in the middle of a grassy area that gets irrigation.
A ton of irrigation.
And it's just always wet. And these service berries just did not like that. And so I wanted to plant bald cypress, but the thing is, there's the bridge. There's this really special bridge in Dublin that everyone is just madly in love with. And I was worried that if I planted bald cypress, that they would just completely block the view of this bridge because there's just such big trees. So I used the Lindsay skyward, which are a tight, compact, tight, narrow one. So you could still kind of, they're going to fill that space, but you're still going to have a good view of the bridge. So
yeah,
like you said, different cultivars for different.
There's a lot of different cultivars. There's like, I've seen weeping ones. You've got, what's the peeve
minaret,
peeve minaret, which is like
a dwarf,
just a very small dwarf one. So yeah, you really can get a lot of different cultivars.
And with these, I think the classic Dawn Redwood with the yellow foliage is Ogon. But the new one is Soulfire.
Yeah.
Right? That's the one you guys are.
Yeah.
It's just got.
I've used them both. Both are great trees. Yeah.
I feel like the Soulfire just has a really nice fall color, like almost peach in color.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Very good trees.
So, yeah, back to those. Sorry, I'm done with those.
No, that's okay. It's all good. What about, broadleaf evergreens. So, with broadleaf evergreens, you mentioned boxwood were in your definition, and boxwood's another one that's kind of like, they've come out with some cultivars that are more resistant to boxwood blight. The other big issue that I see with the boxwoods is leaf miner, which is very manageable and very controllable, but it's still just one of those things. Like, there could be something better planted in lieu of a boxwood that's going to give you the same effect.
Boxwoods are just troublemakers. Like, I get they are very utilitarian, and I get the idea of wanting them, but like you said, they're just so prone to issues. And and like you said, leaf miner is easy to take care of. I've had to deal with it myself here at home. But why would you want something that you're going to have to treat with an insecticide every single year just to get rid of this leaf miner? Or you could try to maybe plant something that's got a similar vibe that doesn't have all these problems, right? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. What do we got?
No, what are you getting at?
Inkberry holly.
Yeah, you are.
And the reason I say inkberry holly is because it's literally like the cultivars of these things are strong boxwood, so
green box, strong box.
And they look, if
the untrained eye.
If you didn't know what you were looking at, or even with the trained eye, if you were driving by at 30 miles per hour and you just glanced over at the entryway to your neighborhood, you're going to think like, oh, those are boxwood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you get up on them, there are some differences, typically not quite as dense as a boxwood would be, a little bit more airy habit to them. So maybe not quite as.
The leaves might be a tad bigger, but
the inkberry leaves are a little bit bigger, but generally speaking, just a really, really solid boxwood alternative.
It is. And, like boxwood, they're pretty adaptable to sun, shade, dry areas. The only thing I've noticed with the inkberry hollies is throughout establishment, you have to keep them very moist. Once established, they can take dry as heck. But I know we lost a few out front because we weren't very diligent waterers, and it was totally our fault.
Yeah, and I think that they prefer, probably, like you said, the moist, but probably prefer, like most hollies, a little bit more acidic soil. So maybe at planting, if there's some things you can do to help amend the soil some through establishment. And I'm not saying that, for us here in Central Ohio, if we plant an azalea or a rhododendron, like that thing's toast in a couple of years. So, and same with like the mountain laurels, but these aren't quite to that level, I don't think. I think that they prefer it, but they're still a very adaptable type plant.
Really clean, just a clean green, and the fraction of the problems as the boxwoods have. So and Another thing to keep in mind with hollies, any hollies in general, is that they're a dioecious plant, which means in layman's terms there are male and female plants. So um, with the inkberry, it doesn't really matter because it's not like the Christmas holly you think of that gets the red berries, or the winterberry holly that you think of that gets the showy berries. The inkberry holly gets blackberries, and no one grows it for that. They're small. I don't even know when you buy them. Do you buy females or males or both?
No, you just get the plant.
You just get the plant. Doesn't really matter. But if you are searching for hollies with showy berries, you need to make sure you're buying female plants, but then also have a male pollinator tucked away in your
somewhere
land.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tuck that ugly one away someplace.
Yeah. Hide the mister is what I always say.
Yeah. So hollies with the inkberry, we do them here. The other hollies, I mean, there's some good examples here and there, and they're few and far between though in Central Ohio of just some good like American hollies.
Yeah.
The winterberry does well, but winterberry is a deciduous shrub. It does not hold on to its
and that doesn't really fit our topic.
Yeah, so that doesn't fit our. So I mean, that would fall into the category of holly and does give you good winter interest. But
and if you are looking, if you do want to see a really nice holly collection, we'll plug the holly collection at the Dawes Arboretum. They have one of the best holly collections you'll ever see, and they've got I'm not even gonna pull numbers out of my butt, but they've got tons of hollies.
Yeah, and they also have a very good like rhododendron azalea collection too.
Both azalea and rhododendron.
Yeah, both. Which it's crazy because the Dawes Arboretum and where we're at, they're only like from Central Ohio. They would be like what, a half hour east?
Yeah, I mean
they're Columbus.
Maybe a little more.
Yeah.
But they're not that far out of town.
30 or 40 miles.
But their soil is completely different.
And they can grow all this stuff. Yeah. And in Central Ohio, like I said, we can't grow rhododendrons. We can't grow azaleas. We can't grow the laurels. We can't grow these.
At least not with the success that they can in the eastern part or the northeastern part of this state.
No, we always get like at the garden center, you get people that come in after the masters that are like, I want to plant the azaleas like they have down in Georgia. Okay.
Yeah.
They plant them and they die. And it's like, I wonder why. Yeah. And like, I did everything right. Well, sometimes it's not about doing everything right. It's like, if the soil's not right, then you're just doomed from the start. So it doesn't matter how green your thumb is. So
yeah, you need to keep in mind, like, if your soil needs to be more acidic to have healthy rhododendrons, like the soil has to be more acidic. Not like you need to just sprinkle something on top and hope that it gets down there. Like you need to completely change all the soil around that plant, and then you need to do that every few years.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work. So to each his own. Too much work for me. It's not what I'm trying to get into.
They are beautiful though. I like going to Southern Ohio and seeing the native laurels when they're flowering and rhododendrons and things.
So even my parents up in the Cleveland area, their soil is completely different than ours here, and they have so much success with rhododendrons like along their front foundation, and it's just crazy how healthy and lovely they are.
Yeah, they're pretty plants when they're in flower. Same with the azaleas, all of the bright colors that you can get on them and stuff.
Yeah,
really cool plants for sure. So what other broadleaf evergreens you want to hit on? There's a lot of other foundation type evergreens. So we talked about junipers as being a tree, but there's a lot of these junipers that are also in shrub form.
Yeah.
So one that we've been using a lot is a lime glow juniper.
Yeah, we just planted a few out front in our yard here.
Gray owl juniper is one that we use quite a bit. The microbiota, which is what is that? Something cypress. I'm trying to think of the
I don't know the common name, but
anyways, yeah,
it looks very much like a juniper.
Yeah, that's a really cool one. Looks like a juniper, but it has softer foliage. Really, really pretty. The bronzing on it goes from like a really pretty green all year long to almost this purple color, this purple bronzy color in the wintertime. Really cool.
Yeah,
that's a really good plant. I've got some at home that are doing really well.
You know which one I use that stays smaller, that can tolerate lots of shade.
Cephalataxis?
Yeah.
Which
Just cephalotaxis in general. We've
yeah.
talked about cephalotaxis on here, but if you're looking for a great deer resistant evergreen that can take full shade, cephalotaxis is your plant.
Yeah, it would be an alternative to just the taxus, which
And it's one of those ones to the untrained eye, you would just call it a taxus or a yew, but it's not. It's a Japanese plum yew is actually the common name for it. But to me, I think the nuances of it are just cleaner and nicer looking.
yeah. Not to say that there's something wrong with taxus, because I think taxus itself fits a lot of the bills too, and you're gonna be able to find that probably more readily than you would say a Duke's Garden or a fastigiate cephalotaxis.
Yes,
But
the one I have in the backyard here is a hedgehog.
Yeah.
And have you seen it lately? It's really grown nicely, and I really love the upright ones, the fastigiatas. And what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. The other reason I like cephalotaxis over taxus is just because it's more unique. Because taxus is just
everywhere,
so common.
It is, yeah.
And if I always say, there's only two certainties in a horticulturist's life, right? Death and taxus.
Yeah.
So,
and burning bush, because everyone plants those.
Yeah. Let's not even get started on that today.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Cephalotaxis is another good one, but there's a lot of really good evergreen shrubs. Just be cautious of size of some of these things, because you see these small junipers at the garden center in a 3-gallon pot, and before you know it, 10 years down the road, these things are 10 feet wide and 4 or 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
So
keep in mind that the term dwarf doesn't always mean it's just going to say super small all its life.
Yeah.
The term dwarf often and usually means slower growth patterns and shorter internodes. So that's the length of stem between a leaf. So it's just going to grow at a much slower rate, and maybe like the mature landscape size in X amount of years is going to be 5 by 5, but that plant's not reading its tag, and that plant could eventually get 8 by 8. So,
yeah,
and most anything you grow can be pruned here and there to keep it the size you like.
What I love is reading the plant label for, say, gold mops false cypress, right? And you read the plant label and it's like 3 to 5 foot tall and wide.
Yeah.
Is what the label says. And then I've seen these things that are literally they get that strong dominant leader come out of the top of them that doesn't get pruned out. So they just continue to shoot to the sky. And I've seen these things like 12 feet tall, and 10 feet wide. And the other one too is we get dwarf burning bush. And people plant these things. Oh, it's a dwarf burning bush. It's only going to get 6 foot tall and 3 foot wide or 4 foot wide or whatever. And I've seen them 15 plus feet tall,
Yeah.
And I've gone in and pruned those. Like I pruned some for a guy a few years back, this doctor here in Central Ohio. And they were up to a second story of his house. They were huge. And I cut those things down to like thigh high. He wasn't going to remove them, he was dead set on having those.
I know.
But anyways, I cut them back to thigh high, and he was like, "You killed those things," and I'm like, "No, I didn't. Trust me." And yeah, the next year he's like, "Those look better now than they have in a long time."
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So dwarf, don't, like Tim said, don't always think that means small, because it doesn't.
Yeah, do your due diligence. If you see something, you hear about something you like, do your due diligence and do some research before you buy it, because it's just going to stay 3 by 3, because chances are it's probably not going to stay 3 by 3.
Yeah, correct. So,
but yeah, and then I think the other area of evergreens that I think's interesting, and we touched on it a little bit, are just like fun and interesting ones, like things that are growing contorted ways, things that are weeping, things that stay like prostrate, which means they like hug the ground.
Yeah.
Things that grow super high and tight. Like what's that arborvitae this is actually a pretty common one now? The sting.
It's like a foot wide and 1,000 feet tall.
Yeah, it's like crazy. It's like a telephone pole.
Yeah.
Literally, and we've been able to find them in like 3-gallon pots.
Yeah.
So you can't really see, but the pictures I've seen online of these things that are a little more mature are pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I think if you are interested in some of these smaller conifers, it's really like a collector's type thing, right?
Yeah.
So what you need to do is just get hooked into go to a local arboretum. You know, we have the Dawes Arboretum here locally and Chadwick Arboretum. Any arboretum you go to is probably going to have a pretty badass evergreen collection because there's a million different evergreens out there. So anytime somebody finds these funky contorted, we call them brooms or witches brooms on an evergreen, they cut them, graft them, and grow them, and they put a name on them, stick them in an arboretum, and that's that. But you get with some of these collectors, maybe there's a local conifer collector group on Facebook or something like that you can get hooked into, and you can often find a lot of these wild and crazy.
It's a lot like hostas. Like, you need that hosta. Is that hosta even that great? No, but it's different, and I want it.
It's different just enough. Yeah.
So
A lot of cool little evergreens. Dave Danaher here in Central Ohio, he grows a lot of the oddball evergreens. Yeah. So cool. What else do you have to add to the evergreen talk, bub?
Well, that's the thing. We might have to that might just have to be like part 1 of like a series where we do an evergreen episode every now and again, because there's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I hate spruces because they're sharp and pointy. Like, as from a planter's point of view, I hate dicking around with spruces, and that's why I love Oriental spruce, because they have like a soft rubbery texture. So like I like firs a lot more than spruces because they're not as sharp and they smell better. I don't know. I think evergreens are very interesting, and conifers and everything we've talked about.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating.
Yeah. It's a big group of plants that deserves a lot of attention. So cool, man. Well, I guess that we'll kind of wrap that up for this week then. And I'm looking forward to next week's episode.
Me too.
We're going to talk some Thanksgiving stuff, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving. So
that's going to be good.
Little teaser for you there.
Yeah.
So this one's really Tim's going to have a lot to say on this next episode.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps the closest talk we get to too much botany and plants is like, what vegetables do you use in your stuffing?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I love stuffing.
Oh, me too. Let's talk more about that next week.
Let's do that. But let me just ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Stuffing is what goes in the bird. Dressing is what people often call it when it's cooked in a pan, not in the bird.
Yeah.
So say you have a pan full of dressing. Do you prefer the inner soft, like water, soggy bit, or like the crunchy bit along the edges?
I'm indifferent on that, but if I had to, I'm indifferent on it. I think every now and again having a little bit of that crunch in there is good, but I also don't mind that kind of like softness either. I don't know.
I like that soggy one because you don't have to chew it much; just goes right down the hatch.
I mean, it's kind of like, do you want like like with French toast? Sometimes you get like the outer part of the French toast is a little like harder and crispier, but then you get in the middle, it's a little bit more soggy, you kind of get like the best of both worlds.
The people just got a little taste of what next week's going to be like, though.
So,
next week's episode.
Yep.
All right,
man. Well, thanks, peeps, and we will we'll get with you next week.
Bye.
Love y'all harder.
Bye.
+2. Bye.